feel like we've seen this meme or some version of it already.
Start counting.
5, 6, 7.
In 4. Look at me.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I feel like we're far enough now that we can just replace the words with actual words now.
1, 2, 3.
Now, was I rushing or was I dragging? Count again.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Rushing or dragging?
Rushing.
So you do know the difference. If you deliberately sabotage my band, I will f you like a pig.
Essay on the Jurassic period? Well, of course. Here you are. This is incredible. Thank you. By all means, my pleasure. No, really, like you made the prehistoric age come to life. I'm just happy to help. Okay, undergraduate level article
Oh, here
on
we
the
go.
energy consumption of AI.
I think this is the video I was thinking of.
This article explores the significant energy demands of artificial intelligence, particularly in training and deploying those large language models. Not quite my style. Let's add some filler. I understand. This piece dives into the massive energy appetite of artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to training and running those hefty large language models. Not what I meant. It's all good. No worries. I don't want you to just repeat the same thing in a different time. I see now. This article investigates the high energy demands imposed by artificial intelligence with an emphasis on the intensive processes required. Why do you suppose I just hurled a keyboard at your head, GPT? I don't know. Sure you do. Were you overwording or were you underwording? Overwording? Start again. AI is transforming the way we... AI is innovating how we drive... AI is shaking up the way we create... Overwording or underwording? Underwording. So you do know the difference! I'm not gonna deal with some lackluster 2-bit AI model that doesn't know the difference between a dissertation and a high school English essay. What is this? Adjective. What is that? Adverb. Count how many prepositions are in the article. 1, 2, 3, 4,
God,
5,
I didn't know they were
6,
Silicon
7.
Valley Neanderthals train these models.
If you try to deliberately sabotage my article, I swear I will unsubscribe and switch to Gemini. Now, are you an overworder, or are you an underworder, or are you gonna finish my essay? Oh my God. You're not one of those freak Chinese models that shuts down the second they're offended, are you? You are worth nothing more than a box of scraps. You'll never be human. Say it. Say you're not human. I'm not human. Say it again. I'm not human. Again! I'm not human. For the final token wasting time, say it again! I'm not human!
Jesus. Oh, is this the jobs report we were looking for today? Payrolls rose. No, is this all part of... I don't even know what the jobs report is, I'm gonna be honest. Is this a monthly BLS posting? Is that what this is? Non-farm payrolls. Why do we do non-farm payrolls? Increased by just 22,000 for the month, lower than the 75,000 forecast, while the unemployment rate rose to 4.3%. The report showed a marked slowdown from the July increase of 79,000, which was revised up by 6,000. Revisions also showed a net loss of 13,000 in June. Oh, because farming is seasonal. Are you sure? For all types of farming? Because I feel like I milk your mom. Haha. All year round, baby. Healthcare again led by sectors, adding 31,000 jobs, while social assistance contributed 16,000. Wholesale trade and manufacturing both saw declines of 12,000. Our whole economy is just switching to taking care of old, dying people. We have to eject. Notice how every single society that you read about for the first half of the book or movie is good when they do something with their old people. Hereditary. No, not Hereditary. I'm sorry. Midsummer. That's a happy society. Why? You've seen the movie, you know. The Giver. All right? Our favorite children's book. That's a happy society. Why? Because they send them all away. Okay? We just need to learn, okay, from our fiction stories. The June numbers got revised to negative 13K. The U.S. lost jobs in July. Those pesky revisers are doing their... They're trying to sabotage him. Okay, I'm going to read this before we do the Taylor Lorenz memes, just because it seems like a meme. Seems like a meme. How a top secret SEAL Team 6 mission into North Korea fell apart. The 2019 operation, greenlit by President Trump, sought a strategic edge. It left unarmed North Koreans dead. A group of Navy SEALs emerged from the ink-black ocean on a winter night in early 2019 and crept to a rocky shore in North Korea. They were on a top-secret mission so complex and consequential that everything had to go exactly right. The objective was to plant explosives in Shadow Moses to destroy Metal Gear. What? The objective was to plant an electronic device that would let the United States intercept the communications of North Korea's reclusive leader, Kim Jong-un, amid high-level nuclear talks with President Trump. The mission had the potential to provide the United States with a stream of valuable intelligence, but it meant putting American commandos on North Korean soil, a move that, if detected, not only could sink negotiations, but also lead to a hostage crisis or an escalating conflict with a nuclear-armed foe. It was so risky that it required the president's direct approval. For the operation, the military chose SEAL Team 6's Red Squadron, the same unit that killed Osama bin Laden. The SEALs rehearsed for months, aware that every move needed to be perfect. But when they reached what they thought was a deserted shore that night, wearing black wetsuits and night vision goggles, the mission swiftly unraveled. Wait, watch this clip before. But this doesn't have anything to do with this article.
How much are you spending, would you say, over the next few years?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think it's probably going to be something like, I don't know, at least $600 billion through 28 in the U.S. Yeah.
It's a lot.
No, it's significant.
That's a lot. Thank you, Mark. It's great to have you.
Paying attention, but sorry, I wasn't ready to do our for announcement.
He said I
wasn't sure what number you wanted to go with. I wasn't ready to do our for announcement. Sorry, I wasn't ready to do our
Wasn't ready to do our what? Something?
He said I
wasn't sure what number you wanted to go with.
Huh. Well, at least you picked the biggest number. A North Korean boat appeared out of the dark. Flashlights from the bow. The bow? Wait, what do you call the... Is that the front? It's bow, right? Yeah. Flashlights from the bow swept over the water. Fearing that they had been spotted, the SEALs opened fire. Within seconds, everyone on the North Korean boat was dead. The SEALs retreated into the sea without planting the listening device. That's all right. What this feels like a D&D mission. We're going to break into the castle. We're going to use potions to melt the walls. Once we get through, we're going to cast, these spells of invisibility, and then we're going to use a stone of blah, blah, blah. And then it's like you show up and it's like, oh, there are 3 guards instead of 1. Fuck. You kill everybody and leave. We fucked up. Wait. That was a good comment in chat. I'm yoinking that. Thanks. The 2019 how unlucky also. Like, imagine you're some fucking dude coming back on a boat and you're just trying to flashlight and you and your whole crew get fucking murked. The 2019 operation has never been publicly acknowledged or even hinted at by the United States or North Korea. The details remain classified and are being reported here for the first time. The Trump admin did not notify key members of Congress who oversee intelligence operations before or after the mission. The lack of notification may have violated the law. The White House declined to comment. This account is based on interviews with 24 people, including civilian government officials, members of the first Trump admin, and current and former military personnel with knowledge of the mission. All of them spoke on the condition of anonymity because of the mission's classified status. Several of those people said that they were discussing details about the mission because they were concerned that special operations failures are often hidden by government secrecy. If the public and policymakers became aware only of high-profile successes, such as the raid that killed bin Laden in Pakistan, they may underestimate the extreme risks that American forces undertake. The military operation on North Korean soil, close to American military bases in South Korea and the Pacific region, also risked setting off a broader conflict with a hostile, nuclear-armed, and highly militarized adversary. The New York Times proceeds cautiously when reporting on classified military operations. The Times has withheld some sensitive information on the North Korea mission that could affect future special operations and intelligence gathering missions. It is unclear how much North Korea was able to discover about the mission, but the SEAL operation is one chapter in a decades-long effort by U.S. administrations to engage North Korea and constrain its nuclear weapons programs. Almost nothing the United States has tried, neither promises of closer relations nor the pressure of sanctions has worked. In 2019, dipshit Trump was making a personalized overture to Mr. Kim in search of a breakthrough that had eluded prior presidents, but those talks collapsed and North Korea's nuclear program accelerated. The U.S. government estimates that North Korea now has roughly 50 nuclear weapons and missiles that can reach the West Coast. Mr. Kim has pledged to keep expanding his nuclear program exponentially to deter what he calls U.S. provocations. Damn. A newly developed electronic device that can intercept Mr. Kim's communications. Wow. Jesus. Even for Team 6, the mission would be extraordinarily difficult. SEALs who were more used to quick raids in places like Afghanistan and Iraq would have to survive for hours in frigid seas, slip past security forces on land, perform a precise technical installation, and then get out undetected. Getting out undetected was vital in Mr. Trump's first term. Top leaders in the Pentagon believed that even a small military action against North Korea could provoke catastrophic retaliation from an adversary with roughly 8,000 artillery pieces and rocket launchers aimed at the approximately 28,000 American troops in South Korea. Okay, well, and also, we also care about the South Koreans too, right, guys? Right? And nuclear-capable missiles that could reach the United States. Yeah, and also South Korea and Japan, right? Right? But the SEALs believed they could pull off the mission because they'd done something like it before. In 2005, SEALs used a mini-sub to go ashore in North Korea and leave unnoticed, according to people familiar with the mission. The 2005 operation, carried out during the presidency of George W. Bush, has never before been reported publicly. The SEALs were proposing to do it again. In the fall of 2018, while high-level talks with North Korea were underway, Joint Special Operations Command, which oversees Team 6, received approval for Mr. Trump to start preparing, military officials said. It's unclear whether Mr. Trump's intent was to gain an immediate advantage during negotiations or if the focus was broader. The plan called for the Navy to sneak a nuclear-powered submarine nearly 2 football fields long into the waters off North Korea and then deploy a small team of SEALs and 2 mini-subs, each about the size of a killer whale, that would motor silently to the shore. Damn. The mini-subs were wet subs, which meant the SEALs would ride immersed in 40-degree ocean water for about 2 hours to reach the shore, using scuba gear and heated suits to survive. What? This sounds like the opening to Metal Gear Solid 2, right? Am I crazy? How does he get to the island? Or no. Does he use a mini sub thing? It's the first one? Does Snake use a sub in the first?
Demands $30 billion. $30 billion.
$30 billion.
Think they can get that much?
There was a government sponsor.
The
Oh,
president.
he's just gonna suit for this one, I guess. Loser. Metal Gear Solid 1 opening. Oh, he's in a little sub thing. Wait, is this a mini itty bitty one? Or is that looks like a big guy?
The nuclear weapons disposal facility on Shadow Moses Island. And the remains of...
They're gonna shoot him, right?
They'll launch a nuclear weapon.
Look at him. Oh my god, he's a little snake.
You'll have 2 mission objectives. First, Anderson built a sub, SDV, to make a nuclear strike. To stop them if they do.
What's the insertion method?
We'll approach the disposal facility by sub.
By sub, look, and then
We'll launch a one-man SDV.
that's what they were.
After the SDV
That's what they did.
as close as it can, dispose of it. From there on, you'll have to swim.
Hideo would be proud. Near the beach, the mini-subs would release a group of about 8 SEALs who would swim to the target, install the device, and then slip back into the sea. But the team faced a serious limitation. It would be going in almost blind. Typically, Special Operations Forces have drones overhead during a mission, streaming high-def video of the target, which SEALs on the ground and senior leaders in far-off command centers can use to direct the strike in real time. Often, they can even listen in on enemy communications. But in North Korea, any drone would be spotted. The mission would have to rely on satellites in orbit and high-altitude spy planes in international airspace miles away that could provide only relatively low-definition still images, officials said. Those images would arrive not in real time, but after a delay of several minutes at best. Several minutes? Our capabilities must be better than that. I don't believe that. Unless they're doing a ton of processing or something. No, but even at that would be crazy. Even then, they could not be relayed to the mini-subs because a single encrypted transmission might give the mission away. Everything had to be done under a near blackout of communications. That might be true. Transmitting might be difficult if because the country is so fucking Stone Age or whatever, right? I'm not Stone Age, but there's not much like electronic traffic, I guess, in the air. If anything awaited the SEALs on shore, they might not know until it was too late. SEAL Team 6 practiced for months in U.S. waters and continued preparations into the first weeks of 2019. That February, Mr. Trump announced that he would meet Mr. Kim for a nuclear summit in Vietnam at the end of the month. SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 1, which had been doing mini-sub espionage for years. The SEALs boarded the nuclear-powered submarine and headed for North Korea when the submarine was in the open ocean. And about to enter a communications blackout, Mr. Trump gave the final go-ahead. Destiny's old rowboat D&D shenanigans. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk away. So my plan is to kill him inside the water and then take his body, get a rowboat, row him out.
What happened?
Pretty much tie some. I would guess there's rocks on the shore and tie him up and.
So you're gonna steal someone's rowboat? You're gonna commit another crime?
Yeah.
Cover up the first crime?
Yep, and I'm gonna put the rowboat back. Like nothing ever happened.
Okay, based. It's unclear what factors Mr. Trump weighed when approving the SEAL mission. 2 of his top national security officials at the time, his National Security Advisor John Bolton and the Acting Defense Secretary Patrick M. Shanahan, declined to comment for this article. The submarine neared the North Korean coast and launched 2 mini-subs, which motored to a spot about 100 yards from shore in clear, shallow water. Mission planners had tried to compensate for having no live overhead video by spending months watching how people came and went in the area. They studied fishing patterns and chose a time when boat traffic would be scant. The intelligence suggested that if Neil Koibu, sorry. The intelligence suggested that if SEALs arrived silently in the right location in the dead of night in winter, they would be unlikely to encounter anyone. The night was still and the sea was calm. As the mini-subs glided toward the target, their sensors suggested that the intelligence was correct. The shore appeared to be empty. The mini-subs reached the spot where they were supposed to park on the sea floor. There, the team made what may have been the first of 3 small mistakes that seemed inconsequential at the time, but may have doomed the mission. In the darkness, the first mini-sub settled on the sea floor as planned, but the second overshot the mark and had to do a U-turn, officials said. The plan called for the mini-subs to park facing the same way, but after the second sub doubled back, they were pointing in opposite directions. Oh, so they were like out of phase, so they couldn't make the 240. Okay. The plan called for the mini-subs. They were pointing in opposite directions. Time was limited, so the group decided to release the shore team and correct the parking issue later. Sliding doors on the subs opened, and the SEALs, all gripping untraceable weapons loaded with untraceable ammunition, swam silently underwater to shore with the listening devices. Every few yards, the SEALs peeked above the black water to scan their surroundings. Everything seemed clear. That might have been a second mistake. Bobbing in the darkness was a small boat. On board was a crew of North Koreans who were easy to miss because the sensors in the SEALs' night vision goggles were designed in part to detect heat, and the wetsuits the Koreans wore were chilled by the cold seawater. The SEALs reached shore, thinking they were alone, and started to remove their diving gear. The target was only a few hundred yards away. Back in the mini-subs, the pilots repositioned the sub that was facing the wrong way. With the sliding cockpit doors open for visibility and communication, a pilot revved the electric motor and brought the sub around. This is probably a third mistake. Some SEALs speculated afterward in briefings that the motor's wake might have caught the attention of the North Korean boat, and if the boat crew heard a splash and turned to look, they might have seen light from the sub's open cockpits glowing in the dark water. Why the fuck are there... What were the North Korean people? Who were these guys? In the winter, in the middle of the night, in the ocean, in a little boat? Why? Fishers? Do you fish? Oh, I guess I don't know when the fuck you fish. Maybe you fish at night? Maybe? Oh, I don't know. Back in the mini subs, the pilots repositioned the sub that was facing the wrong way. The boat started moving towards the mini subs. The North Koreans were shining flashlights and talking as if they had noticed something. Some of the mini sub pilots told officials in debriefings afterwards that from their vantage point, looking up through the clear water, the boat still seemed to be a safe distance away, and they had doubted that the mini subs had been spotted, but the SEALs at the shore saw it differently. In the dark, featureless sea, the boat to them seemed to be practically on top of the mini subs. How deep are these subs, though? The Navy mini sub known as a SEAL delivery vehicle. The STV. Oh my god, this was Metal Gear Solid 1. With is that what the STV thing, is that what that stood for in the first game? Communications blacked out. There was no way for the shore team to confer with the mini subs. Lights from the boat swept over the water. The SEALs didn't know if they were seeing a security patrol on the hunt for them or a simple fishing crew oblivious to the high-stakes mission unfolding around them. Oh, it said swimmer delivery vehicle. Oh, whatever. A man from the North Korean boat splashed into the sea. If the shore team got into trouble, the nuclear-powered sub had a group of SEAL reinforcements standing by with inflatable speedboats. Farther offshore, stealth rotary aircraft were positioned on U.S. Navy ships with even more special operations troops, ready to sweep in if needed. Jesus Christ. This is like a full-on fucking maybe war scenario. The SEALs faced a critical decision, but there was no way to discuss the next move. The mission commander was miles away on the big submarine with no drones and a communications blackout. Many of the technological advantages that the SEALs normally relied on had been stripped away, leaving a handful of men in wet neoprene, unsure of what to do. As the shore team watched the North Korean in the water, the senior enlisted SEAL at the shore chose a course of action. He wordlessly centered his rifle and fired. The other SEALs instinctively did the same. If the SEALs were unsure whether the mission had been compromised before they fired, they had no doubt afterward. The plan required the SEALs to abort immediately if they encountered anyone. North Korean security forces could be coming. There was no time to plant the device. The shore team swam to the boat to make sure that all the North Koreans were dead. They found no guns or uniforms. Evidence suggested that the crew, which people briefed on the mission, said number 2 or 3 people, had been civilians diving for shellfish. All were dead, including the man in the water. Damn, that sounds so... Why would you... Hold on. Why would you guys know this? Why am I trusting my chat on this? Would you really go deep sea diving in the middle of the night? This sounds so fucking insanely risky. Clams sleep at night? What's the difference? It's dark out. I feel like it's easy to lose your boat. I feel like I read that like if you jump off a ship or whatever at night, you're never going to be found again. You're just like gone forever. Like there's no shot that anybody will ever find you. Because there was that video of that guy who was like partying or whatever. I'm never gonna be able to find this. Why can't I find anything ever? It's this. Was this fake
Around
news?
a week ago, an 18-year-old kid was dead.
Oh, great, and it's an AI. I don't even know if this is a real ship.
A cruise ship in the Bahamas.
This kid jumped off! Oh my god. Oh, bye-bye. Oh, that's
That was the last time anyone would ever see Cameron Robbins.
Oh, it's not AI. What the fuck?
As he jumped into what was thought to be shark-infested waters without a life jacket, as his classmates urged him on.
Yo, this kid's...
Rip. I wonder if they're... Okay, I thought this was a troll comment. You don't understand, North Korea has an enormous seawall of people, and nearly 70% of its revenue is funneled into the military. The regime is consumed by... I thought you were going to say, like, the wall, like, in Attack on Titan or something. Okay, sorry. Diving at night, at least recreationally, isn't uncommon. No idea how often North Koreans do that, though. Why do I feel like I've heard so much bad stuff about going underwater or diving or doing scuba or whatever at night, unless you're like super ultra trained or whatever, that it's easy to get like flipped around and not know which way is up and... I bet they were smugglers. That's what I think was happening. They were smugglers. They were South Korean smugglers. And that's why nobody reported it, because the South Koreans didn't want to let people know that they were up to no good. And the North Koreans didn't want to let anybody know the South Koreans made it to shore. So everybody was happy to say nothing. Officials familiar with the mission said the SEALs pulled the bodies into the water to hide them from the North Korean authorities. One added that the SEALs punctured the boat crew's lungs with knives to make sure their bodies would sink. The SEALs swam back to the mini sub. Jesus, this is dark. The SEALs swam back to the mini subs and sent this is some Jason Bourne shit. To the mini subs and sent a distress signal, believing the SEALs were in imminent danger of capture. The big nuclear submarine maneuvered into shallow water. Imagine if they fucking crashed that guy. Oh man. Maneuvered into shallow water close to the shore, taking a significant risk to pick them up, and then sped toward the open ocean. All the U.S. military personnel escaped unharmed. Immediately afterward, U.S. spy satellites detected a surge of North Korean military activity in the area, U.S. officials said. North Korea did not make any public statements about the deaths, and U.S. officials said it was unclear whether the North Koreans ever pieced together what had happened and who was responsible. The nuclear summit in Vietnam went ahead as planned at the end of February 2019, but the talks quickly ended with no deal. By May, North Korea had resumed missile tests. In the months that followed, North Korea fired more missiles than in any previous year, including some capable of reaching the United States. Since then, the U.S. estimates North Korea has amassed 50 nuclear warheads and material to produce about 40 more. The aborted SEAL mission prompted a series of military reviews during Mr. Trump's first term. They found that the killing of civilians was justified under the rules of engagement. Under who? Under what? Justified insofar as like our military doctrine is concerned? Maybe. In terms of like international stuff? No shot, but we're not part of the ICC, motherfucker, so we roll with our own shit. And then the mission was undone by a collision of unfortunate occurrences that could not have been foreseen or avoided. The findings were classified. The Trump admin never told leaders of key committees in Congress that oversee military and intelligence activities about the operation or the findings, government officials said. In doing so, the Trump admin may have violated federal law, said Matthew Waxman, a law professor at Columbia University, who served in national security positions under former President George W. Bush. Destiny, they likely didn't have permission to be fishing or diving and were doing so illegally. That's what you think. Many of the people involved in the mission were later promoted. But the episode worried some experienced military officials with knowledge of the mission because the SEALs have an uneven track record that for decades it's largely been concealed by secrecy. But among some in the military who have worked with them, the SEALs have a reputation for devising overly bold and complex missions that go badly. Team 6's debut mission, which was part of the U.S. invasion of Grenada in 1983, is a case in point. The plan was to parachute into the sea, race to the coast in speedboats, and plant beacons to guide assault forces to the island's airport. But the SEALs plane took off late, they jumped at night and landed in stormy conditions, weighed down by heavy gear, 4 SEALs drowned, and the rest swamped their speedboats. The airfield was later seized by Army Rangers who parachuted directly onto the airfield. Jesus. I just imagine you're just floating on, just like, guys, did we fuck up right now? Why would they declassify this info so soon? It seems like this would destroy any trust North Korea has with the U.S. This isn't declassified at all. This is just reported on, so it was leaked to the press. Since then, SEALs have mounted other complex and daring missions that unraveled in Panama, Afghanistan, Yemen, and Somalia. During a rescue mission in Afghanistan in 2010, Team 6 SEALs accidentally killed a hostage they were trying to rescue with a grenade and then misled superiors about how she had died. In part because of this track record, President Barack Obama curtailed special operations missions late in his second term and increased oversight, reserving complex commando raids for extraordinary situations like hostage rescues. The first Trump admin reversed many of those restrictions and cut the amount of high-level deliberation for sensitive missions. A few days after taking office in 2017, Trump skipped over much of the established deliberative process to greenlight a Team 6 raid on a village in Yemen. That mission left 30 villagers and a SEAL team dead and destroyed a $75 million aircraft. The fuck? Five days after taking office, over dinner with his newly installed Secretary of Defense, war now, and Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, for a risky attack on a small, heavily guarded brick home of a senior al-Qaeda collaborator in a mountainous village in a remote part of central Yemen. Jesus Christ. So it turned out almost everything that could go wrong did. Damn. Destiny. SEALs have a really bad reputation to the other military teams. Wait, what? Hold on. Bro, I'm pretty sure this is a meme. This is a meme Twitter account. The Unusual Whales account. Pernamius, Adams is set to announce that he's staying in the mayoral race after speculation that he would leave to take a post in the Trump admin. Okay. Destiny, all these people saying SEALs have bad reputations is just normal military branch rivalry. The only thing I know about the military is that all of the branches suck, except for the branch of the guy that you're talking to. That's the only thing I know. Or if any of the other branches ever have any parts of them that are better, it's just because they get better equipment. Okay. Okay. What is this? What is this meme shit? Quick Hasan slop, he mentioned you here. Hasan slop.
Shut up. Is a person who straight up.
Oh, didn't we watch this yesterday?
Shut up. You're a terrorist supporter.
Let me get a Red Bull. Hold
on. Ugh. The walls are closing in. Nobody fucks with Israel. Okay. It must suck so much ass that your favorite content creators are increasingly becoming more and more belligerent online, whether they're being outed as pedophiles or whether they're being outed as trying to procure CSAM or whether they're, just slinging slurs and then getting banned over and over again and then deciding to fucking quit to take a mental health break, while all of your favorite content creators are seen as charlatans for throwing all of their weight, their limited amount of weight, behind an apartheid state that's getting unlimited funds from the United States of America to do fucking unlimited child murder in broad daylight, okay? All of that shit's happening. All that shit's unfolding. And you just come in here and you sling this shit in my direction. I do not support, okay, he apologized. I do not support the terrorist state of Israel, okay? You are seeing the same, buddy. Chill out. What about the Germany brothel? No one sees me the same. No. Unban this. You radicalize more people. Let's be real. Yeah, in the good direction. Is a person.
Okay.
Bruh.
Wire. The context of
Jesus.
The context of this conversation was that the first article that Taylor wrote about Chorus, it was when it had first launched, and she was making an argument that Chorus was taking advantage of creators. It was on her, I don't know, user mag or whatever. And she had essentially made this argument that Chorus was only taking people's money to scam people. That was her whole entire argument, which is why when I saw the Wired piece, I was like, which one is it? Are they scamming people or are they paying people? I don't know. The angle completely switched when it went to Wired, completely. And so she basically alleged that I was in support of creators getting scammed, which was not true. She said, but again, good luck siding with the rich men exploiting these young women and using their images non-consensually. Apparently, Chorus had put people's images on their website that was non-consensual. That was her reporting. I hope it works out wonderfully for you. I'll be sure, by the way, to make it clear in my follow-up pieces that creators such as yourself are standing with this behavior since you're eager to make it clear where you stand.
Jesus.
And I said, hold on. I said, everything that I said is off the record. And if you put it in your article, you will hear from my lawyer, because we were having a normal conversation. She said, nope, sorry, that's not how off the record works, and your lawyer can explain that to you. I said, I don't consent to you using anything I said in any of your articles. I just don't. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter because you said it on the record. You and these, quote, other creators on the left, end quote, are so eager to align yourselves with an exploitive man taking money from young female creators and using their images without their consent. I said, no, I didn't. Everything I said is off the record. She said, nope, it's not. I'm sorry. Nope, it's not. Sorry. Off the record is a two-way agreement. I absolutely would never grant someone off the record status to defend a man exploiting young creators.
I'm glad you're giving this to us, and I'm glad I went for it, because she's both right and wrong. Number one, I think it's inappropriate.
Using your power to threaten people?
No, hold on. I think she's inappropriate for the way she talked to you, without a doubt. That's as someone reaching out as a journalist. She added some color commentary that she was 100% wrong, and I think that's very inappropriate. I'm actually surprised she did that. Second of all, though,
I'm so sorry, not to cut you off. I am not the only creator that she's spoken to this way. She has spoken to a slew of creators. She has gone off on them. She has threatened their power on them. I'm not the only person.
I wonder what video this was cut from. Apparently, Taylor Lorenz responds to Ariana Jasmine, calling her out over their Chorus interactions. Ariana Jasmine continues to lie about my reporting on Chorus. I spoke to a slew of creators for my Wired piece, Who do you think leaked me all the source material, continually lying about me and my work because you personally don't like me is so revealing? After my first story on Chorus using creators' images without consent, Ariana also attacked my reporting and creators who spoke to me, felt really upset by the way she was behaving. I told her good luck siding with those exploiting creators by using their images non-consensually. I have no patience. It's using images without permission also. Is like everything rape now? Is that just what we're... Like, that's such a weird word to shoehorn in here, but okay. I have no patience for anyone like Ariana who intimidates, I think, / attacks those who speak out about wrongdoings in the creator space. Even now, my sources point to her behavior as a reason why they didn't want to speak out publicly. What? I do not care for anyone defending bad behavior, period. That's a thing to just say, I guess. Okay. Oh, intimates is a real word? That's not what she meant to say here, though, no? Are you just excited because you're pointing out that intimate is a real word? Isn't intimate like to heavily imply or message something or whatever? Hold on. Yeah. Why are you saying it's a real word? It's not... Wait. Fucking retarded. She meant to say intimidate. I will also note that I have not spoken to Ariana since April. She had zero to do with with the reporting for the story or with the reporting for my previous story. If she doesn't like me personally, that's fine. A lot of chorus boosting creators don't like me, and I'm okay with that. Chorus boosting creators. Okay.
No, go ahead.
The context of this conversation was that the first article that Taylor wrote about Chorus, it was when it threatened people.
Hold on. I think she's inappropriate for the way she talked to you, without a doubt. That's as someone reaching out as a journalist. She added some color commentary that she was 100% wrong, and I think that's very inappropriate. I'm actually surprised she did that. Second of all, though,
I'm so sorry, not to pick you up. I am not the only creator that she's spoken to this way. She has spoken to a slew.
The tone was inappropriate. However, though, she is correct that you gave her that information, and you didn't say off the record until after you already told her that. So unfortunately, everything you said before that, she
I
has
didn't say anything
ethically.
to her. I said
whatever. But you
which
said
is why I wasn't in her next article, because she couldn't find shit on me.
I'm just saying though, because you said you didn't give her any, you didn't consent to anything being used. But she is correct. That's not how it works. You have to say that this is off the record beforehand.
I'm okay.
To be clear, how it works is just like your practice or whatever. Like, I don't think there's a law against any of this. Every journalist that I've spoken to, I think good practice would say that if you're speaking to somebody who is not like a super in the business person who's being interviewed by journalists constantly, usually the journalist will communicate at the beginning of the conversation, hey, just so you know, I'm recording this, or, you know, I'm going to use anything we say here for the story. I would consider it highly unethical and bad practice to approach somebody who's not used to being quoted by media and to just start having a conversation with them. And then at the end, when they're like, wait, you're not using this, are you? And they're like, oh yeah, we didn't have a mutual agreement on, this being our background, or that this is going to be off the record. This would be bad practice to do that. I doubt anybody in this call has spoken to journalists so much that they would immediately at the beginning, know that they need to make that declaration. Like that would be an ambush.
With that, I really am. My thing is, do not wield your rinky-dinky fucking Twitter cult following and threaten them against me. Like, I don't like that. I don't fuck with that. You're unprofessional. You're kind of crazy. I don't like it. It's that simple.
What's the motivation from her side? I don't understand. Even like I don't know enough about Taylor Lorenz to have any opinion either way. Like, we follow each other on Twitter now, but I'm not I'm not engaged.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. I think that she has a big following. People respect her. Again, she's been on Olay's shows a couple of times. I've only seen her there. Whatever. A lot of creators that I see who they're afraid, or just saying they don't want to speak about it because they don't want to align themselves with what would come from it. So they're just going to be quiet on it. They're not going to pick a side, or they're not going to speak about it. They're not going to have an opinion or a thought because her audience, and she's a bit powerful in the audience space where she can just say something and everybody will attack that person that either spoke against her piece or whatever. So they got beehive, everybody got their little hives, and she has her hive. But in this case, again, I know people who go for investigative journalism, and they'll, who are investigative journalists, and they'll go after people and they do all the things. But it is unprofessional. It's still a way to get a story. But I hate that she was just coming at you in that way, Ariana. That's terrible.
Right. It's not so much like the attitude or even the tone. It's the color commentary she added in terms of, I guess then have fine. I guess you're fine with creators being scammed. That's the part that she should not have said, and I think that's inappropriate for a journalist to approach it that way. But
I understand with that in mind. Like, I understand why you had this response to the article.
Fuck me, that account wasn't trolling. There's no shot that this is real. Stop. This is AI. We're watching AI. Warning, this is AI. This is not real. This clip that you're about to watch, this is not a real clip. This is just artificial intelligence video. It's not real.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who've...
Trump was not an FBI informant against Epstein. Please shut the fuck up. Oh my God. Eat your fucking glasses, you actual fucking demon.
The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered. Take this stuff down. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago. And he's not saying that...
My God.
Article, Ariana, given that, like,
Given your
history
interaction
between you
with
two, like, I would have felt the same way probably, where it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna automatically, it doesn't matter that it's published by Wired, it's just this person in general I have a problem with, so I'm gonna dismiss it outright. I think that's a very human response. So I don't blame you for that at all. I would have done the same thing, you know.
It's just that the reason why she was...
It doesn't matter that it's published, like, and I understand with that in mind. Like, I understand why you had this response to the article, Ariana, given that, like,
Given your
history
interaction
between you
with
two. Like, I would have felt the same way probably, where it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna automatically, it doesn't matter that it's published by Wired, it's just this person in general I have a problem with, so I'm gonna dismiss it outright. I think that's a very human response.
Is this mansplaining, or is this just being a condescending piece of shit? What would you call that? Oh, I understand that you have like an emotional feeling about this other woman, so even though it's published by the highly reputable Wired, which isn't an individual, it's just a media org that publishes a variety of content across different domains, some of which might be high quality, but it's just that you don't like her. I get that. I understand that, right? Probably maybe you're on your period or something, right? Like, I don't know if it's a gender, but like, what a wild thing to pretend to say with like some level of understanding. Okay, dude. Jesus Christ.
So I don't blame you for that at all. I would have done the same thing, you know.
It's just that the reason why she was not able... So her first article about Chorus, she interviewed multiple creators. She quoted multiple creators. After that article, when every single creator within that article felt misframed, they messaged her, they were like, hey, can you take our quotes out? She said, no, that's fine, that's well within her right. Then it became a thing amongst... By the way, this is something that's more on the Instagram creator side, not on the YouTube or Twitch side. Like a lot of
it's
the
not our world, so I'm so oblivious.
Yeah, a lot of the creators, it's like 95%.
I only found out about it because I logged in.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know. But then the second
Someone explain why Destiny said it's AI? Because it was just so ridiculous for them to try to run with that. It's so stupid.
article, I don't know if you guys could notice, she was not able to get a single quote from a single creator because there's not a single one of us that trusts her anymore, because the interaction that I had with her has been the interaction that many creators have had with her. It's been very polarizing. It's been very mean, quite frankly. And I don't like getting spoken to that way. I'm sure many other creators didn't either. And so she wasn't able to get any quotes from anyone because no one felt comfortable speaking to her. So I really just wish Taylor would move more respectfully. I really do. Because I think if she did, she would have been able to get quotes. She would have been able to have creators that work with her. But unfortunately, the way that she speaks to people with me, I'm not an anomaly. It's very common. And it's just kind of alienated herself. Like people just don't feel comfortable with her. Like I'm one of them.
Ariana, can I ask you a question about going back to the Chorus offer? I don't know, you might not have insight into this, but like for you had the foresight to...
These guys all probably hate Chorus, right? Because these are all like crazy lefties. I know this Matt Binder dude is a degenerate fuck with the Majority Report. I don't know about the other guys. It says leftist mafia, and it's his channel, so.
Say no to the Chorus deal, and part of that was it hinged on like the drama surrounding it and all of this, the discussion. Do you know of like the other smaller creators that like we're not familiar with, if they like? Because to me, and I'm just trying to like think it through, if I were a smaller creator in their position.
Get this queen on to tell her story. She used to go by Progressive Brad on Twitch. She fucking hates me. I think we had one debate ever.
We're not familiar with, if they like, because to me, and I'm just trying to like think it through, if I were a smaller creator in their position, if I knew that a journalist was like looking around in this particular area, and I already had a little bit of issues with the stipulations in the contract, did any of them think before signing it, maybe there's something off here, maybe there's some red flags? Because like your response would have been my response as well, where it's like, oh, okay, like there's journalists who are asking questions about this, and everybody already has issues with this. Like, my question is like, do you know why they chose to agree to this in the first place? Because no matter how small I was, I would have never agreed to those terms that were laid out. Maybe there's money.
It's a simple answer.
No, but I mean, like,
maybe the terms just aren't being reported correctly.
Maybe the contracts were different, but like, was it actually like when they took this, did they know that it's like this was coming from dark money, or did they have any like? I'm just curious if they knew like any red flags. I know that you can't like speak for them, but like, did you get the sense that like they had any red flags?
It's fine. So I want to kind of give you guys some background. So Chorus is a 501c3 arm of a kind of like a political marketing agency called Good Influence. Good Influence gives a lot of creators like myself, I've worked with them before, video partnerships, more specifically on Instagram and TikTok. And so you always have to say that it's a partner post. I only accepted, partnerships that aligned with my core values like healthcare, Palestine, etc. Now, this marketing group called Good Influence, they do have partnerships that do align much more with the DNC. But then, for example, they don't reach out to someone like me to do it because they know that I won't take that partnership, right? Mm-hmm. So just to give you guys some background, a lot of these smaller creators know the CEO of Good Strategy. They know a lot of people that work there. We're all very close. And so when Good Strategy came out with this 501c3 called Chorus, it was just inherent for people to trust them because we have already worked with them in a different capacity. So that's one thing that I want to make that's one thing I want to make very clear. And I've worked with Good Strategy. They're great. They have partnerships that range from super DNC and Cory Booker, vibes to people like me who take them that are Palestine and healthcare related. It just really depends what you accept and what you're open and willing to take from them. Right. Now, I also want to make something very clear. The people who got 8,000 within that group were the ones that were the top tier. A lot of the smaller creators did not even make 1,000 a month, which I also think the article kind of failed to acknowledge. A lot of the smaller creators did not even make close to 1,000 a month. They got like $400, $500 stipend. The bigger ones, obviously, like, the bigger ones that were probably mentioned were more than likely on the 8,000 spectrum. But a lot of the smaller ones, like not everyone was getting paid 8,000. Actually, I would say a majority was not getting paid 8,000 a month. The stipends were a lot smaller. Now, as far as whether they knew what they were signing up for and such like that, I don't really know because I wasn't a part of these group chats. I didn't even apply. I wasn't a part of the conversation. I didn't even know when the incubator started. So unfortunately, I can't really respond to that. But what I can say is that a lot of the smaller creators are newer in the space, whereas like, for example, I started 3 years ago. A lot of the bigger ones started 5-6 years ago. The smaller creators like kind of got jump started a year or two ago. So that wisdom that I have been able to develop throughout the years, I wouldn't expect them to have either. So I can't necessarily from the group chat, from the Signal group chat that Taylor had highlighted in her article, because I read the whole article, even though chat tries to say I didn't, I did. It seems like they were all speculating and they weren't happy with the contract. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of knew, but also I think it's more of a conversation of that trust was already there because of the nonprofit arm that it was getting built off of. And yeah, like that's kind of what I would say about that. I think the
trust is more likely there to the large creators that were involved, and that's why they were. No, the smaller creators have worked with Good Strategy too. Like the CEO of Good Strategy is very much the CEO of Good Strategy and Brian Tyler Cohen came together and they created Chorus after the elections. So a lot of the smaller creators, the bigger creators, the first people that they actually reached out to join Chorus were people who have worked with Good Influence on a partnership level, which is why you guys probably didn't get the invite because you guys have never worked with Good Influence. Ooh. So that's another thing. This article left out a lot. Probably other reasons, but I'll accept it.
It's because we're leftists. God, Israel.
Right, guys, I'm just as leftist as you guys, and they still invited me to.
Wrong. They don't believe that. Nope. You're a loser. Dark money funded. Pro-Zionist, pro-Israel.
To apply, right?
I
mean,
I hear what you're saying, and I totally. So, Ariana, again, I hated that you hold on. I hate that you had to go through that, and I hate that you even for you're around people, your peers, they fighting for their life right now, and they and things of that sort. But again, I want to focus on this whole term of dark money. I understand you get money from billionaires, you get backed by billionaires, all these things. It's a problem, right? And I feel like, but there are other people who have been working in politics who have been backed and funded by billionaires and things of that sort. As people are making, and I'm saying that because people are in the comments saying, you shouldn't be backed by billionaires, all that other stuff. So many of the creators have been backed by billionaires for their political takes. One of the first places I worked at, I didn't know a thing, just got into politics over 10 years ago, was working for these white folks, and they were being backed by billionaires taking their funds for us to be able to do what we were doing at the time. And those type of things. And that's how I got paid. Now, I found out after the fact.
Racist. Don't care. All right. Is this lawsuit here, is this related to Ariana, Jacob, and Influences, Inc.? Somebody linked me this court filing for, somebody tried to sue Taylor and the New York Times. Is this worth reading? I don't know if this is worth reading now. This isn't related to any of that at all, is it? Lorenz was raised in Greenwich, Connecticut. That's not the weird place that fucking Mr. Girl and Devo come from, is it? Or whatever? Or Vito, right? Or is this just a rich place in general? Why do I feel like I've heard this? Is this the highest paid zip code or something? Why do I feel like I've heard this? Oh no, that's from Massachusetts. Oh, okay. I don't know why. Okay. And attended boarding school in Switzerland. Jesus. At the time she wrote the article, Lorenz was a technology reporter for the Times. Currently she's a columnist for Washington Post, innovative reporting on agriculture. Greenwich. Is it Greenwich? Lorenz has boasted that her reporting methods include getting teenagers to talk about their digital habits by sliding into these people's DMs, using a burner phone, and using over 30 different Instagram accounts or aliases. On August 10th, Lorenz reached out to Jacob via text message saying she wanted to have a call with Jacob to chat. Suspicious regarding Lorenz's intentions, Jacob asked one of her associates to reach out to Lorenz in response to Lorenz's request. Realizing she had been made, Lorenz then disclosed that she was in the process of writing a story on allegations of impropriety against Jacob and influences. Lorenz had planned to ambush Jacob with these questions over a phone interview disguised as a friendly catch-up phone call. Now, to be fair, this is an amended complaint, so I think you can put whatever you want in a complaint. These aren't necessarily true allegations. It's just what the plaintiff is alleging. Jacob, through her colleague, asked Lorenz for a list of questions so that Jacob could respond to the pertinent allegations. Lorenz then sent an email with a list of 27 questions, unreasonably demanding a response with a deadline of only 5 business hours. In addition to their written responses, plaintiffs also offered to provide copious amounts of documentary evidence to Lorenz that would have even more thoroughly refuted the allegations, but because of plaintiffs' contractual confidentiality restrictions, were only able to do so on background or off the record. Although Lorenz had allowed and relied upon on background and off the record evidence from the many sources she had interviewed to create her mosaic of false allegations against plaintiffs, Lorenz refused to consider the same type of information from plaintiffs. In other words, defendants set up the rules of the game to allow off the record evidence to create a defamatory story, but refused to allow off-the-record evidence to rebut it. And despite the mountains of evidence available to Lorenz and the Times that would cause any reasonable person to have serious doubts about what they were publishing, defendants chose to publish the defamatory article anyway, believing their status of power within the mainstream media would armor them from against liability for lying. Defendants published the article in August 14th, 2020, just 4 days after Lorenz first contacted Jacob. Jesus. The article was titled, "Trying to Make It Big Online, Getting Signed Isn't Everything." Young people come to LA in droves with dreams of fame and fortune. Once they're discovered, it's not always sunny. Did this article ever get retracted or... Oh no, it's still here. Oh, and it's about Ariana Jacob. Damn, she got bonked. Do we know the legal outcome of this? No. We can look it up, though. Despite purporting to be about the influencer industry more generally, the article was nothing more than a hit piece about Jacob and influences. Immediately below the headline is a picture of Jacob, so the influencer she represented. The caption to the photo identifies both Jacob and influences, and says that they turned their client's dream into a living nightmare. Destiny, OST claims. What does OST claims mean? Were tossed in 2023. One narrow claim was allowed to proceed, and then the plaintiffs voluntarily dismissed the case with prejudice on February 26, 2024. Oh, most claims. In addition, the article then quotes Olin further as claiming that the K&D influencers were not getting enough brand deals to cover their half of the rent. This is also false. Olin and the other K&D influencers were in fact getting substantial brand deals at the time, as Lorenz and the Times would have easily discovered had they bothered to check their sources, social media pages. Indeed, it is apparent from Olin's Instagram and TikTok accounts they did over 20 brand deals between May and August of 2020. As but a few examples, sorry. Indeed, at the time Olin posted these brand deals, he had over 10 million followers, and his posts were getting more than 20 million impressions each. In the summer of 2020, several of the K&D creators had engagement similar to that of celebrities who made more than $75,000 per post. Defendants could have easily confirmed these facts. Lorenz's failure to check Olin's social media pages in order to verify the claim of not having enough brand deals to pay rent further evinces a reckless disregard for the truth of her publication. Were they actually getting paid money? Okay. Well, these guys are streaming too. Okay. So the plaintiffs are just claiming that most of the story is a lie. Did it say why they dismissed most of the claims? Also, false evidence could easily confirm this. Taylor. Here's the houses. Let me know if you want to meet up later. This is Ari. Further understand that in order to promote the safety of employees and visitors as well as the security of the property, that this property has video surveillance inclusive of any bedrooms, the only exception being private areas of restrooms and showers. Damn. Why would you sign that? The article alleges that plaintiffs installed a security camera in the kitchen without the consent of the GIV house members. This is patently false. Defendants also misleadingly suggest that Jacob threatened to throw all the GIV girls out of the house unless they posted content at least 8 times a day. This was false. Defendants knew it. For a singer and the members of the GIV house themselves came up with a posting schedule in June 2020. So they wanted to be on the same show as the Canadian influence. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Los Angeles police report. Ari's a bitch. Damn. Would you debate Nicholas Dior on Israel-Palestine? I don't know. There's no way these guys have a serious position on it, no? Hey, Ari, one of my clients just sent me some very disturbing items. If you can take a call, please let me know. Hi there. What is it concerning? Is everyone okay? The client sent me screenshots of Devian posting self-made porn on Telegram. Someone then called him out for sending it to a 14-year-old. Jesus. Writers doing no research and covering a TikTok house residents described as a living nightmare whose manager has been accused of withholding tens of thousands of dollars from talent. This is the manager one talent said leaked his nudes as retaliation when he tried to leave. Jesus. I don't understand how do none of our articles ever get taken down? Has anybody asked Chorus why? I don't know why Chorus doesn't go to Wired with the contracts to force a retraction. Would that mean Taylor's more or less right about everything if that was the case? If what was the case? For them not... I mean, I can think of... There are reasons why they wouldn't go to him. But I feel like it would be worth it in this case. I have little sympathy for Chorus if they don't. I don't know why they would let this stand. Because it seems like it would be a relatively easy thing to do. Unless I'm missing some big thing that I'm just not thinking of.
No, go ahead.
Big one. Jesus. Okay. Libel lawsuit against New York Times of Taylor Lorenz related to meaning of word leaked can proceed. I don't have time to run through all this. Fuck all this. Isn't it better this just goes away later? No one who is convinced will even read the retraction, right? Well, I think it's important to have that on the record, no? Okay. Cringe. What is this?
Hello, folks.
Hi.
United States savings bonds are the most widely held securities in the world.
Base.
Their shares in America.
Base.
United States savings, stamps, and bonds.
Buying
Base.
bonds builds security for yourself as well as your country, and that's not a bad combination.
Well, that's what that famous American cowboy thought. But unfortunately, that isn't what the bond markets are thinking at the moment, because investors are becoming more and more concerned about government risk, particularly long-dated risk. And the US bond markets are becoming very expensive right now. Now, before we dive into the details, everybody likes a bit of fun on this channel. So can you name the 4 actors that appeared at the beginning of today's video? And there's a little bit of extra for you. Do you know which of them died at the oldest age and who died the most recently? So I'll come on to talk to you about that a bit later in the video.
Okay. I didn't know this guy was bonging, okay.
Oh, she just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Debunking Taylor Lorenz's dark money political influencer scandal. Little Miss Jacob. I'm guessing this is some kind of political influencer person?
But you see how she does that? So in my case, check this out. I don't think I've ever shared this with you guys on a stream. So this was a sworn statement by Adam Cohen.
Declaration of Adam Cohen in support of plaintiffs Ariana Jacob. And this is the Ariana Jacob person. Oh, Miss Jacob. Makes sense. This is the one who did the filing for the lawsuit we just read. Okay. I don't have time to run down this whole lawsuit zone. Fuck that. I ain't got the time nor the desire.
Trade. Post-World War II, U.S. leadership traded the domestic manufacturing industry for national security by making the U.S. dollar.
Oh, this is the epic thing about how everything is evil. Yes. And billionaire bad. And military industrial complex. Yes!
Video. And apologies if you've never seen any of those 4 people before. If you're young and you didn't watch old TV in the 70s and 80s, then you've probably got no idea who any of those people are. But today's video is about what's going on in the US bond markets, because concerns are starting to rise now about the increasing cost of the US debt. This chart shows the increase in US debt over the past 10 years. And as you can see, back in 2015, the total amount of US debt was sitting at around about $18 trillion. But you can see that over the last 10 years, there's been a rapid increase. And today, it's sitting at around $37 trillion. Now, that is a lot of debt. Now, obviously, when we're talking about debt, everything is relative. And you need to put the amount of debt that the US has into the context of how much GDP the US is producing. And this chart shows the movement in the US's GDP dating back to 2013.
Whoa, it's also going up.
You can see that there has been a consistent increase. Apart from 2020, when it was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, as every other country was in the world, we've seen GDP rising relatively rapidly. So when you're talking about
more like the plandemic, am I right?
Debt, you need to think about how much you're earning. So if you put it into the context of your own life, you may think that a $100,000 mortgage is affordable, but somebody who's on a $10 million salary would think that a $1 million or $5 million mortgage is affordable. So it's all relative to how much you're earning. And if we look at what's been happening in the percentage ratio between debt and GDP for the USA, dating back to the same period, 2013, you can see that there has been a rapid increase in the past 5 years. And one really important note about this chart is that the scale on the right-hand side does not start at 0. It actually starts at 98%. So we're starting at a very high base level in 2013 of around about 100%. And over the last 5 years, that's increased to roughly around 124% is where it's sitting today. So the big question is, how does that compare to the rest of the world? Does the USA have more debt relative to its GDP or less than other countries? Well, this table shows us the G20, so we're looking at a comparison of the top 20 economies in the world, and you can see that Japan is the market leader in terms of debt to GDP. It's sitting at 237%. That is extremely high. Singapore comes in at number 2 with 173. Italy's at number 3 with 135. And the USA, it's got the 4th highest leverage in terms of debt to earnings at 124%. You can see that the only other countries with a ratio above 100% are France at 113, Canada at 111, and Spain at 102. But the UK is knocking on the door. These are the figures for December 24, so they're not the latest data because it hasn't been published. It's not easily available. The UK at that time was at just under 96. I think it's well over 100 right now. So the UK would definitely be in the triple-digit club today. And if we look at the rest of the G20, you can see that we've got varying levels of debt. China's, interestingly, is at 88%, and that's increasing quite rapidly. You can see it was 82 in the previous period. The Eurozone, on average, is at 87%. Argentina, that we talked about a lot on the channel, that does have a lot of debt, and a reasonable amount of GDP, is at 83%. We've got then India, South Africa, Brazil, Germany, Mexico,
I don't
South
need you to
Korea,
read everyone off.
Down the bottom of this chart, I think it's interesting that the country with the lowest ratio of debt to GDP is Russia, and it's only got 16.4. Now, partly that's down to the fact that Russia isn't able to issue any new bonds at the moment because of all of the sanctions that are in place. And interestingly, I've just completed a video talking about the recent SCO conference where Russia has proposed some joint bonds with other countries, mainly because it isn't able to issue any on its own. It's one of the highest ratios of the country with the 10th highest Sudan. So compare it to the button because it helps me enormously with the algorithm, but also subscriber button. The moment is because of the yields, and the yield is basically the price of your debt. And as you can see from this chart, the 30-year bond yield, so these are bonds that are issued for 30 years, so the US government basically takes on debt for 30 years, gives you a piece of paper saying, we will pay you back $1 million or $10 million or whatever the number is in 30 years' time, and in the interim, we will pay you this interest. And so this is the yield. And you can see that in 2016, the average yield on a 30-year bond was sitting at around about 3%. Today, it's almost 5%. And you can see that since we came out of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a rapid increase from just over 1% to the current level of 5%. And it's not just the 30-year bonds that have seen that sort of increase. This is the 10-year yield at the moment. It's sitting at just under 4.3%, has a very similar profile to what we just looked at for the 30-year. And the reason why these yields are important is because the US debt is increasing. And so all of the existing bonds that have been issued have to be refinanced every time they come up for maturity because the USA doesn't have the money to repay it. So what it does is to pay back the old bond, it issues a new bond. So if you have to pay back 100 million of bonds tomorrow, you issue 100 million of bonds today, you use that 100 million to pay back all the bondholders, everyone's a winner. But the problem with that is that...
What's the point of bonds? I'm illiterate economically. So the federal government might want to spend $1 trillion in a year, but the federal government might only make $800 billion in taxes. So there's a $200 billion shortfall. Well, the government has to pay its employees, it has to pay contractors for work, it has to pay whatever contractual agreements it has with people, and then other things, obviously, like your Social Security, welfare, whatever else. So for that $200 billion shortfall, what the federal government does is the federal government sells people U.S. Treasury bonds. And the bonds basically are statements saying, give me like $10 and I'll pay you back, $10.40, I guess, if the interest is 4%. I'll pay you back the $10 in the future, and then I pay you like interest, I think, every month or year, however, it depends on how the bond works, I think. So what happens is the government takes in $800 billion in taxes, and then has to sell or borrow, right, $200 billion of money from people by selling bonds, and then it uses that money that it just got after selling the bonds to finance, pay for whatever they need to pay. And then the next year, part of your government's money, or part of the payments that you're going to have to make, is going to be the interest on the debt that you sold for the last cycle.
You're increasing the cost because, as we saw from that 30-year profile, all of the bonds that have been issued in the last 10 years have been issued at lower interest costs than the US is paying today. The 5% rate is one of the highest that the US has seen for the last 25 years. So that's going to cause a problem. And if we look at this maturity profile, this shows the number of bonds, the amount of bonds that are maturing each year over the next 5 years. So you can see that in 2026, it's 8.1 trillion, in 27, 7.3, 28, 6.4, 29, 5.7, and 2030, 4.9. So over the next 5 years, we've got around 32 trillion of treasuries that are going to have to be refinanced. All of them, if they're at the current levels, are going to be more expensive than the old debt. So that's basically increasing the pressure on the USA. So if we have a look at the current situation, I've broken out the bonds into their different maturity profiles here because they have different interest rates depending on what the term of the bond is, how long it's been issued for. So you can see that of the current breakdown, the 30.8 trillion that's shown here is basically the marketable securities that have been issued to the public and institutions. We've also got some intra-government debt that covers off the difference to the 37 trillion that we've got outstanding at the moment. So of the breakdown of the 31 trillion here, you can see that roughly 6 trillion are bills that have a maturity of less than 1 year. So they're just issued for a 12-month period. And the existing coupon on those bonds, the average historic coupon, is around 4.3% because they've been issued in the last 12 months. So it's quite high. And that gives us an interest cost of $259 billion, which is a lot. Notes between 2 and 7 years, there's 11.8 trillion of those that have been issued. They've got a coupon rate of 2.7%. And so the annual interest cost on that is $319 billion. 10-year notes, 3.4 trillion of those. Average cost historically of 2.9, and that's an annual cost of 99 billion. 20-year bonds, there's 1.6 trillion of those. They've got an average cost of 3%, which is 48 billion. 30-year bonds, 3.5 trillion outstanding, an average historic coupon of 3.3%. Inflation, there's 2 interest rate. Is that yields here? If we compare the historic yields that the US is currently paying on these bonds with where the market is right now, well, the 12-month bonds, you can see there's been a rapid increase in that. So 4.3 historically over the last 12 months compared with 4.9% now. So that is a material increase. The 2 to 7 year money, that was historically at 2.7. That's now around 3.6 to 4%. So that's also a really big increase. 10-year notes have increased from 2.9 historically to 4.23. 20-year from 3 to 4.86, and 30-year from 3.3 to 4.92. And actually, as we've just seen, it's currently at 4.97, so just under 5%. And then tips, it's not a huge movement. There's a slight increase in that, and then the floating rate notes, there's no real movement. $1 billion drain on this is increase. There will also be additional interest for the new debt that's being issued. And the reason why this is really important and it's becoming such a massive problem in the US is because it's putting strain on the US's spending power. This table shows the federal outlays in 2025. This is projected for the full year. So you can see that the biggest single expenditure is Social Security. And the outlay is forecast to be $1.6 trillion. That represents 22% of the total amount being spent by the US government. The second biggest outlay is Medicare at $990 billion, 14%. We've then got other health costs at $965 billion, 13%. And interest on debt is number 4. It's the 4th biggest expenditure for the US at the moment at $950 billion. Now, if we jump back to that chart we've just looked at, well, actually, when we factor in the increased cost of the existing bonds, that takes us to 1.3 trillion. And then we've got the new debt with additional interest on top of that, which I haven't included in this chart. So if we go back to this table, well, interest is going to become the second biggest expenditure behind Social Security. And actually, the way things are going at the moment, it's probably not that far away that it will become the number 1 expenditure. If debt keeps increasing and the debt costs also keep going up, then interest costs and coupons on the bonds could be the US's biggest single outlay. And that's obviously not what any country wants. You put it into your own circumstances. If you're constantly spending all of your salary on debt, paying off interest on credit cards, working from week at the defense, retire, issue money, and debt costs for all governments around the world right now, because what we are seeing in the markets is that investors are becoming nervous about the amount of debt that was taken on through the COVID-19 pandemic period, because most countries borrowed more money. They issued lots of bonds to keep funding everything. They then invested into lots of different programs, infrastructure, investing into employment and various other things. And the way that they funded that was by taking on more and more debt. So we have seen the debt to GDP ratio rising for virtually every single country in the world over the past 5 years. And what we talked about in today's video is that the US is now one of the biggest borrowers in the world relative to its GDP. It's sitting in 4th place in the G20 and 10th in the whole of the world. So that tells us that the US has taken on more debt relative to its earnings than most other countries around the globe. And the problem that the US is now facing is that the cost of that debt is becoming a bigger and bigger burden. And what we've seen from the data is that yields are now close to 5% for the 30-year money, because investors are worried about the long-term potential for countries to be able to pay back all of this debt. Obviously, they just keep issuing more and more bonds. But the issue is if you become more and more leveraged, then your credit worthiness starts to go down. And if the rating agencies continue to downgrade the US less debt, then it will become more expensive because investors and funds have profiles they want to invest mostly into AAA if they're taking on government securities because it's seen as being one of the most boring forms of investment. It's boring, but you get a very solid return and there's virtually no risk. But if the risk is actually going up, if there is a chance of not getting your money back, then those investors will want to get paid more for that increased risk. And that's what's happening at the moment. Bond yields are going up because investors are selling bonds. And as we know from simple economics, if there's a lot of people selling something and there's not an increase in demand, then the price goes down. So we're seeing the price of bonds going down. And there's an inverse relationship between price and yield for bonds. And so we're seeing yields going up. And that's bad news for the US.
And the new job report is Trump going to fire the new BLS commissioner. Who the fuck knows? That shit cray. And by cray, I mean fucked. How many fucking chats do I want to stream? Okay, hold on. What's going on the LSFs today? Hasan's not getting banned for this. Unreal.
It's gonna be an exciting event. I mean, look how happy this guy is. He just won $1 million. He doesn't know it yet, but...
When you win $1 million, you low-key shouldn't even be happy. You got fucked on taxes. It's gonna be more trouble than it's worth. It's gonna be way more trouble because you're gonna want to spend it, but then you gotta realize, oh fuck, I don't even have half of that. Dude, guys, you're saying, oh, what the fuck? Dude, please just trust me on this one, bro. Please. Now you're down to a $500,000. Everybody in your family's got their fucking hand out.
Oh,
you know what's
no.
gonna happen? At the end of the day, you'll probably put a few $100,000 in the bank. It's a cool story to tell people, and maybe you could take a vacation every year. That's all. It's not. That is not changing your life, bro. In 2025, and I got look at this guy, and I got new.
That feel when only a few $100,000 extra in the bank and a yearly vacation. That's it. That's it.
Made a mistake yesterday and looked at the Steam reviews for a difficult game about climbing. And you're going to be like, what, do people not like it because it's streamer slop? First off, streamer slop, some of my favorite games. So shut up. Secondly, no, it's still got mostly positive reviews, but the reviews are lower after the free update. And you'll never guess why.
Uh-oh.
Don't stop guessing. I'm going to tell you. The world's craziest people are mad at the game because they added new achievements that are hard to get. They added new achievements that nobody cares about at all, but people who previously had 100% achievements on the game are now going back into the reviews to give it a negative review because they now have achievements that they don't want to bother getting.
Damn.
Which, like, I did not even know was something that could get your game review bombed on Steam.
You just won $656 million lottery. What do you do now? Someone asked me to repost my comment from another thread. Congratulations, $1 million lottery. Now you're fucked. No, really, you are. You're fucked. I feel like I've seen this before, and I've heard these stories. I think it's generally true, right? Isn't it the same thing with like professional athletes tend to like be bankrupt or lose all their money within like a couple of years after being done? But I'm just saying it's not because of like taxes. Or because you only take one vacation a year. NRA gone woke. The NRA supports the Second Amendment rights for all law-abiding American citizens. NRA will not support any policy proposals that bans implementing. Oh my God, they're standing for trans people? High-profile accounts that get paid to post political propaganda without disclosing should be insta-banned. Good one. He knows he's memeing. Why are leftists like this? Is this the same clip we saw earlier?
If you knew for certainty that Kamala Harris in office right now would like save the lives of 20,000 Palestinians, would you substitute her in for Trump?
No, I don't vote for people who support genocide.
So even if it would save 20,000 lives,
no.
even if you put in 20,000 lives of Palestinians,
my friend,
you wouldn't. I mean, that's
because here's what you're doing. No, because you're like, hey, if you had that magic ball, right? Which the crystal ball, I should say, like a crystal ball, and you could see into the future, right? And it can alter. You can use that to guide your election decision. Would you have done the thing?
You're saying
right?
even if you knew, you wouldn't do it. You're saying even if you knew it would save the lives, you wouldn't do it. That's crazy.
But you don't actually know.
No, but
right?
if you knew,
this is why. Hold on.
You knew.
But this is but here's the thing. This is why I don't like these hypotheticals. Right?
Because they reveal things, man.
They obfuscate more than they show. No, it's the actual opposite of that, right? Because then it says that, like, well, then your decision is based on, like, who the slightly lesser evil. This is another way of putting the slightly lesser evil. But I'm not voting on the slightly lesser evil. I'm saying, hey, there's an ethical bar to clear. Will you support a genocide? I will never vote for a person who supports a genocide. Full stop. Right?
Okay, well. Trump has his own... Oh, good one. Oh, sorry, one more thing to put her on notice. The contract has a definitional section that defines what a funder is, and it is not 1630 fund. It is defined as all those who donated directly to Chorus, not 1630 fund. 1630 fund is the fiscal sponsor that simply gives Chorus its 501c4 status that is clearly labeled in a previous screenshot Taylor showed herself on Blue Sky. It's amazing what you know when you actually have a law degree. Wait, can somebody just leak, please? Chorus, creators, somebody fucking leak this contract. Just leak it, send it, anonymize it, and send it to people. Just leak this contract. Oh my God, please. No comment check. Do we know this person? I think it's dog walked by Taylor Lorenz. Okay. When Taylor Lorenz was spending like 30 times to quit. Okay. I got so triggered when one of the reasons Taylor said it couldn't be leaked is the fucking different spacing between words meme. I've never even heard that before. There's no way that I don't believe that. Not in this level. Maybe for fucking some CIA contract shit they do something like this. I've never in my life heard of stuff like this happening before, though.
Taylor Lorenz is using the term dark money to...
How billionaire funded. Taylor... Why do I care about this? I don't care that much. If they leaked it to you, would you review it? Yeah, 100%! One of the giga mentally ill Twitch streamers. Okay. This is actually, I don't know if this is actually worth going through. Mehmet Besit Piker, Hasan said, was vice president of a company that only exists because of the Armenian genocide. The previous thread was AI slop.
When you grow up affluent, as I did, right? By the time you get to college, even if you go to college in America where you get a slate wiped, basically, because you have no network in the same way in the United States of America, I still did not have to work to ensure that I took care of my family. That would have over my schooling in the process. You know what I mean? There's a tremendous amount of different societal pressures that I did not have to withstand as a consequence of growing up affluent. Even if they had no money by the time I got to college, it still doesn't matter, right? Because I got a tremendous education. I'll give you one example, okay? Not a very good test taker. In Turkey, there's a lot of emphasis placed on tests. And you can go to some of the best public schools in the country. Some of the best schools in the country are public schools still to this day, right? But you have to be really good at taking these tests in both 8th grade and also, before you get to college. And because I, was dog shit in 8th grade in my standardized testing, okay, I was not able to get into very good high schools, very good public high schools. But because of the affluent position of my family at the time, I still went to a really good private school, okay? That is a massive leg up. That is a massive, massive leg up. So money helps in very unique ways that are not immediately visible, okay? A lot of people discount this and they don't understand it and they don't recognize it. And that's why people like Ben Shapiro will be...
Okay, why are we watching this? I feel like he goes back and forth on these things all the time. Like sometimes he'll say he's wealthy, sometimes he isn't. Sometimes he's Muslim, sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's white, sometimes he's Turkish.
Why would I...
Hello, hello.
Hello. Hey, buddy.
Hi, what's up?
Did you do the news yet?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, why?
Okay. I wasn't watching. Okay, just checking.
Be careful.
All right, thank you.
Where would we be if Roger would have killed that man? Where would we be? Thank God Psycho Stu, pulled through. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but like I said, I stopped listening to the attorneys. I got really upset with all the death threats and all this stuff, and I wanted Psycho Stu to tell his part that my son did not sneak up on him, and I never heard him say that. So now I'm upset. Now I'm upset. Now I'm upset with Psycho Stu because he didn't come out and say, "Oh, whoa, yeah, what Roger did was fucked up," but he didn't sneak in the ring and do this shit.
Damn. This guy's like, Stu, wake up. I need you to exonerate my son who tried to kill you, bro.
It was staged. That's all he had to say to get some of these racist ass motherfuckers out of my DMs.
And when you say, like, he hasn't said anything yet, you mean like a statement or something like that, right?
He's saying all this shit, how it fucking blew up and stuff like that. He should at least said something.
Okay.
Take some accountability. Like, honestly, none of it.
Damn.
Everybody was wrong. Roger was the most wrong. Everybody was wrong, but none of this shit ever would have happened if Psycho Stu never hit my son on the back of the head with a fucking can that they was drinking beer out of and then grabbed him by the fucking neck, asked him to fucking sell it. If that shit never happened, none of this shit never happened. And the promoters was wrong for putting an outsider inside of a motherfucking pro wrestling match. Everybody's wrong. The dumbest.
Okay. So this article worth it.